It's now time for Party Chat Sports.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Welcome back, everybody, to Party Chat Sports. We are less than 2 weeks away from the NFL Draft. Thanks for starting your weekend off with us. We've got a great episode on the way. 3/4 of the Party Chat Sports crew is here. Myself, Drew, and Cam. We've got a great show tonight. Recording tonight, going up Saturday morning. We're going to talk about last year. One of my favorite draft episodes we did was talking about our favorite players, not necessarily the best players, but our favorite players in the draft. We're doing our top 3 favorite players in this draft, and then we're also going to have some bold predictions, because that's one thing that we definitely like doing, is seeing how bold we can get with some of our takes. So let's get right into this one. Let's start with our third favorite player. I don't know how necessarily or how you guys want to go about naming players, but let's just kind of go like one at a time.
I'm sure.
All right, take the lead.
I'll start off. I didn't really rank these guys in any order, but I'll kind of put it from furthest in the draft. So day 3, day 2, day 1, in that kind of order. So starting off with my guy, who I think will be the furthest or latest pick in the draft out of my 3 players, is T'Vondre Sweat. So big defense tackle out of Texas. Got in a little trouble lately,
I was
so
going to say,
that might have solidified him as
if you say
a
so.
as a day
hey, he's
3
accepting.
pick.
He's accepting the chart. He's accepting
Perfect
the chart.
Viking, if you say so.
You can't argue facts, but yeah, I just think it seems like every year there's at least one defensive tackle that just comes out and he's huge guy,
Like a bowling ball.
pretty fairly athletic for his size. Just kind of gets after it, can handle can plug up some holes in the middle for sure. And obviously, I think I said this last year, but I kind of my list always ends up being somewhat related to what the Cowboys' needs are, because that's who I'm paying attention to. And so one of those names is, of course, Sweat. So especially as a guy where he's a position of decreased value as of the late trends of NFL football, but we're kind of seeing a resurgence of run game importance, and then with that is you need a big run stuffing defensive tackle, big nose guard. And it seems like there's a lot of pass rushing defensive tackles that you can find nowadays. It's hard to be that big and that athletic. So he's an interesting guy, definitely a specimen. I hope we can grab him, but I'm sure someone will be pleased with, especially with his recent news. You can get him around later than before. So
He might go a day later than he was originally tagged as. But defensive tackle, like you mentioned, is definitely a position that's starting to become important again. I mean, look at the defensive tackles that have been getting paid lately. Quinnen Williams, Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins. A lot of these defensive tackles are getting paid. So to your point, yeah, the run game is becoming a huge emphasis for offenses, so defenses need to stop it. And defensive tackles, your guys up front are in the trenches on both sides, really. are becoming some of the most paid players in the league. So definitely a great position to be if you are athletic enough like he is.
Yeah, I definitely really like someone like him on my team specifically because I think our defensive tackle the highest weight is like 285, maybe 300. So if you get someone in then that's 350, really being able to plug up the holes is very big. Just ask the 2021 Vikings against Kamara in New Orleans. But I will go to
Was that the Christmas Eve or Christmas Day
yes,
where Kamara had like a record-setting day in fantasy?
yes.
Do you have 5 or 6 touchdowns?
Hold
I
on,
think it was
I'm
5.
googling this. Alvin Kamara.
It was not a very good
And he had
team.
the red and green Christmas cleats on.
51 carries, 260 yards. Oh wait, that was in 4 games. That was in 4 games. Never mind.
Okay, I was gonna
Okay,
say
I was gonna
we
say
did
that's
that.
a lot.
Oh my goodness, that's what it felt like.
6 touchdowns. Okay, I got it. It is 22 carries, 155 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That is
Historic.
So moving on to my I'm gonna do favorites. I did no day one picks except for potentially one, even though I drafted him in day one. Lad McCockney. He is
future Steeler.
future Steeler. Let's get that straight. Don't get it twisted. He is a very interesting prospect, strictly because the resurgence of I don't know, a route runner. You don't have to be the most athletic, but this guy is. If you've seen the clips of him, his agility is insane. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have revived that type of receiver. He did not put up the stats in college. I think his best year was 700 yards with 7 touchdowns, and that was 2 years ago. And last year he had 500 yards and I think like 4 touchdowns. But he's just a very interesting prospect because he comes from a very solid team. He comes from a very, I would say, respected organization from college. So he's just very interesting to me because I think you're going to get a Cooper Kupp type player, and it's going to be a guy who's probably going to stay with you through thick and thin and just come into the building to work.
Sneaky, athletic, lunch pail kind of guy.
A lot of grit.
I think most people say that the Cooper Kupp comparison is lazy, just because he's white.
I did say Nakua, but he's not.
That's not better.
I don't.
Unfortunately,
I mean, I couldn't throw in Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley was mid, to say
Danny
the least.
Amendola.
Take it easy.
Danny Amendola, also mid.
Yeah,
Beasley
but I mean,
was awesome.
I don't like comparing.
So Lad just
I
give me
don't
the
like
best
comparing.
of the mids.
That's fine. Look, that's a Patriot style slot receiver right there. If I've ever seen one. Your Wes Welkers, your Danny Amendolas, your Julian Edelman, but he kind of fits that mold, so it works. It's just a shame for him that that Patriot tree is destroyed. And
Well, Belichick is gone. New head coach.
I think he's going to be a good slot receiver for somebody. He's not a guy that I would feel comfortable lining up on the outside very often, but if you can match him up against maybe a safety, a linebacker, and have him in the slot running the middle of the field, I think he'll have success. So
I think he's going to need a very good complementary receiver to help
that's
him
the
shine.
thing. You're not drafting him to be your number one. You're drafting him to be your slot, which is kind of where his first round value takes a tank. Because when you're drafting a guy in the first round, you want him to be your number one or your 1A, 1B. And I just don't see that with McConkey. Is it McConkey? McConkey? I don't pay enough attention to those
Who
Georgia
cares?
guys.
He's a Steeler. That's all that matters.
But I
Keep
do
going.
think with the right system, like you said, if he has a superstar wide receiver next to him, or if he's not being relied on as number one, I think he'll have success. So just trying to think at the top of my head. Like the Steelers do make sense in like a round 2 where they have George Pickens. So line McConkey up in the slot. Honestly,
Chemistry with them, right? Played together?
I have no idea. I'll be honest. That was a long time ago. But Jets are another team that I know could use a slot if they move back up into round 2. Cowboys, I mean, kind of like a Cole Beasley. That's just the role I see for him. I just don't see him as... It's a very niche type of role. But I think he's going to thrive if he's put in the right spot. If he goes to Kansas City, he's going to thrive.
Type player.
Yeah. If he goes to Kansas City, he's going to thrive.
Amon-Ra has kind of the same build.
Yeah.
And you
I
can't.
would say so.
He's not really an outside receiver.
No, he
but
does do a lot
is-
of work in the slot.
Still is a pretty dominant receiver. So
Imagine him in Miami. Next to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
I can only picture Xavier Worthy in Miami.
Yes, that's going to be disgusting.
Speed.
Got 98 speed as a rookie on my franchise right now. Glad I drafted him.
That's crazy. Son of a... So,
Wait a minute. What did you just say?
What? Instead of saying a son of a bitch, I say weird, different things, so...
Okay.
Even though I just said... Whatever. Is there anything else that we need to add on McConkey?
No, he's very boring. Move on to yours.
So, I was putting my list together, and I realized that they're all first, second round players. So I needed to add another guy, and that other guy that I'm adding that's probably going to be a day 3 is Isaiah Davis, the running back from South Dakota State. I think he's very shifty. I think he's going to be a good receiver out the backfield. You're not asking him to be your day or your 3 down back, but kind of use him in the reverse Derrick Henry role that the Titans used, where they took passing downs, they took Derrick Henry off the field and put any other running back out there. That's kind of the role I see for him, is that running back that's going in your passing downs. I'm not going to sit here and say he's an excellent pass blocker. I don't know. I know he's shifty, he can move, and coming from a smaller conference, coming from the FCS, that's going to hurt him. You're not going to get a lot of hype when you're playing at South Dakota State, even if South Dakota State did win the FCS championship. But I do think that he's going to be a guy that we're looking at. Who did the Titans end up taking last year out of Tulane that has no ACL?
Tyjae Spears.
Tyjae Spears. I could see it pretty much that role. I could see that for Isaiah Davis. Where if he goes somewhere.
He's not the only. Who just got drafted out of South Dakota State? Was it Pierre Strong?
Pierre Strong out of, he went to the Patriots. So South Dakota State, they have running backs that go through, it's a mini FCS running back factory. So I think he could be a solid player for somebody. Again, going to the right spot. At the top of my head, Detroit, maybe, if he's kind of that third down back there. Actually, no, that's Gibbs at the moment. Scratch that. That's dumb.
I was questioning that one.
I'm trying to think of running backs.
Let's get rid of Montgomery.
Yeah,
I highly doubt that.
Detroit's a very bad one. That's on me. But Patriots, actually, because Ramondre Stevenson's more that 3 down back. You just come in and replace Pierce Strong. Bills taking Dalvin Cook or James Cook off the field. Teams like that. But if
James Cook can't catch. Unless he's playing the Cowboys, then he's the best receiver or best running back in the freaking league. But
Packers,
beside the points.
Packers,
yeah.
When Josh Jacobs isn't out there.
I forgot they have Josh
Jacobs be a good one.
this year. It's gonna be annoying.
Did they re-sign AJ Dillon, or did someone else sign him?
I don't know.
No, they re-signed. I'm pretty sure.
Did they re-sign him?
Yeah, he talked about coming back. He loves it there. Dude, Josh Jacobs to Green Bay is such a Madden trade signing. It's so weird.
It's a like AI Madden move. Like that's something you would go to the next season, and that's a move that would be made. By the AI.
Why is he here?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my non-first or second round player that I have that I do really like. So I think he could fit somewhere as that receiving back.
All right. My second player. And this is a guy where he has what I think of as a Hall of Fame name, and that is Edgerrin Cooper. There's some times where, at least I have a theory, that your name can decide if you're going to be good or not. And Edgerrin Cooper to me sounds like you're going to be good.
Sounds like a football player right there.
You know,
He was born to be a
imagine
football
if
player.
his name was like, I don't know,
John Smith,
like Micah Parsons.
What? Mike is fine, but just something soft, you know. But
Caleb Gill.
I don't know. That's enough about the. I don't. There could be something to that, but besides the name, he is a good player. He had a 90 PFF grade last year. Let's see. He had 12 games played, 58 tackles. He played mostly as your standard, off the ball linebacker. He had a lot of coverage snaps, and I don't think he's like some sort of generational coverage linebacker, but he's good enough. He's aggressive, possibly too aggressive sometimes. But I think he's going to be a good linebacker. Kind of the same thing with running backs and defensive tackle, where linebackers have been downgraded, have been devalued, at least for some teams, specifically mine, where Dan Quinn had safeties playing linebacker. Anyways, I think it's kind of making a resurgence to have a linebacker who can be in the middle of the field and just be, I personally, I'm looking for, I want my own Fred Warner or some player at least close to that. Obviously, you're not going to get a Fred Warner, but at least
get yourself a Quincy Williams.
Get yourself an Ivan Pace, brother. You can't even see him on the field.
You can go ahead and keep him. We got Ivan Pace on offense. Deuce Vaughn. But anyways, Edgerrin Cooper, if I was picking a linebacker, which it's possible for us because we don't have any, in the second round probably is where I see him going. Out of Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson, I think his name is, Junior Colson, and Trotter out of Clemson are kind of, all right, take it easy. The top of the position class.
The vendetta against Ohio State has started. It's all right.
Listen, man, Eichenberg is not at the top of the linebacker
He's
class.
not
I'm
good.
sorry.
It's tough.
He fell
needs
off.
to be a lineman.
He fell off. But anyways,
go ahead and continue.
My favorite linebacker is Edgerrin Cooper, so I hope we grab him in the second.
See, even Phoenix knows that's bullcrap.
See, if you would have just not said anything, no one would know.
Gill, do you have anything on him? That's the guy at Texas A&M, correct?
No,
Yeah.
but I would like to see kind of that resurgence linebacker. Like, you look at some of the better defenses, like 49ers, Jets, they both have good linebackers right there in the middle of the field, so it is a needed position. It's just like Dan Quinn. Todd Bowles tried doing this a long time ago with Darren Lee, where it was more of a hybrid or the money backer role, and it just didn't work.
Shazier's the only one.
Shazier's the dog. But he was also a downhill guy,
Mm-hmm.
where those guys, like the safeties that got converted to linebacker, they're not that. It's just another defensive back on the field. But I think with what we were talking about earlier, the resurgence of the run game, the linebacker need is starting to grow again. We're never going to see another Luke Kuechly or anything like that, I don't think, but I think we could see some dogs.
It's really going to depend on Jack Campbell's run, because I believe he was one of the higher drafted linebackers talking about how he was going to be generational. So I think, it always depends on the way the draft goes. Is you saw Zeke and Saquon get drafted super high, and you saw Saquon get injury prone, and then everybody went away from first round running backs. It's getting that way for linebackers right now. You see the good, like the solid college linebackers, you see them go in the third and fourth round, and you're seeing the higher, like more versatile, more I guess a better build, better potential. They're going in the higher rounds. Like you can say Trevon Walker, like an edge. Because you got to start throwing that in. It's really going to depend on the higher drafted guys to see if the need for linebackers will come back. Because if you can get them cheap, you're going to get them cheap.
Yeah, it's definitely the NFL is runs off the trends, and unless you're the Lions last year, who did the opposite of what Cam was saying and went with both a linebacker and a running back in the first round, and it worked for them. But that's just not the trend. That's just not what teams do. Like, we will not see a running back. This is not even a bold prediction. This isn't even a tease. I do not think we will see a running back in the first round. I struggle to think we're going to see one drafted high in the second round.
Who's the best back this year? Jonathan Brooks?
And that's also because the class isn't that good. But even like tight ends, you have a chance of seeing maybe a tight end be drafted higher. And the trend is kind of going in that direction with the need of tight end exceeding the need for running back. I mean, Dylan's word is fungible when it comes to those players, and linebackers starting to get to that same role. Like, the Jets' best linebacker, they picked up off of waivers. It's just coaching. And if you spend a day 3, maybe day 2 pick, put him in the right defense, and just let him go, you don't need to spend a first-round draft pick on him.
Agreed. So I guess I will go on to my second one. Speaking of Drew and cool names and, names that can define you, I got Malachi Corley, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. So to kind of paint his picture a little bit, Western Kentucky, his freshman year was with Bailey Zappi. This is one of the most pass-happy, most efficient passing offenses in college football. And this was the number one target. I believe he was second in receptions in the last 2 years, and he was second in broken tackles as a wide receiver. Now, you can say he's playing Sunbelt. Well, when he went on to play Ohio State and Auburn, he didn't have under 75 yards every single time he played a bigger opponent. And I think maybe one time under 60. But other than that, he will get you 5 to 6 receptions a game. He is the rack monster. The lazy comparison is Deebo Samuel. I would like to compare him to a rich man's Curtis Samuel, because Curtis Samuel never panned out. He was supposed to be that hybrid H-back role. Malachi Corley can beat us. He's a little bit on the thin side, but watching him strictly play against Ohio State is where I fell in love with him, because he bounces off tackles. It's kind of like a Garrett Wilson. He's a Garrett Wilson, Curtis Samuel, a poor man's Garrett Wilson, a rich man's Curtis Samuel. That's my comparison for him. This guy is going to be your solid number 2. I don't think he can get the number 1 role like we talked about with Ladd. I think he's better than Ladd, but this guy is going to need a guy to take the pressure off of him and not be focused on him.
He's what, probably a day 2 kind of player?
Yeah, day 2, early day 3.
He's another guy that I think the Jets were one of multiple teams that had top 30 visit with him. And when you look at those smaller schools, smaller school players, you want to see how they perform against bigger schools when they get there. So that's definitely a good test for him. Did he go to the Senior Bowl or anything like that?
I think he left earlier. I only saw 3 seasons for him. Unless he redshirted 1 year. But he was a top prospect going into this year.
He played 4 seasons.
4 seasons?
But he's a junior.
So he did
he must
redshirt.
have redshirted, yeah. Because he only has 6 catches.
I was going to say, I remember him kind of blowing up with Zappy, and then the new quarterback that came in was decent. I can't remember his name, but this guy is the number 1 receiver in a fantastic offense. He's going to be the steal of the draft, in my opinion.
Bold take right there. I like that. If we're done talking about Malachi, I'm.
Mm-hmm.
This has not been a great draft for me in terms of keeping up with some of the stuff. So some of the names I've seen the names, I just don't register them. One name that I loved last season was Michael Penix. I fell in love with him at Washington. I thought even at Indiana, I thought he was fine. The injuries are a concern. But his downfield accuracy is so freaking good. It is hard to get that. That is not something that's developed. That's almost like a gift. And he has that gift. He's a little bit older. But I think go to the right system. And that's every player in general. I keep saying that. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But in the right spot, I think he can have a lot of success. He needs to go somewhere that's going to help him with the underneath stuff. Because that's where he struggles. No. If he goes somewhere that goes to a good coach that can help him develop the underneath tools, he's going to have a lot of success. Because he's already got the deep throws. Now let's get the underneath stuff. And I was listening to somebody talk about him and kind of like what NFL scouts think, and they're split on him. Some think that he's one of the better quarterbacks of this draft. Some don't think he's worthy of a first round pick. And the big one is, do you trust your coaching staff to develop the underneath game? Because that's where Michigan beat him, was taking away the deep routes and making him throw underneath. That's where he struggled. And that's an easier thing to fix. If you can teach, it's easier to teach a quarterback how to throw short intermediate than it is deep downfield. He's already got the deep downfield stuff taken care of. Get him the short intermediate, and also got to shout out the lefties. Love seeing more lefties out there, except for Tua. Dude's a bum. We got to get a good lefty out there. Michael Penix is going to be the guy. My brother loved him. He got me to fall in love with him while at Washington, and he's a leader. Players love being around him as well, and that's a huge thing when it comes to quarterback. That's where you can fail, is you could be really talented, but how are you off the field? How are you in the locker room? And from all accounts, it seems like he's a great locker room guy. There's a reason that Ryan Grubbs brought him over. I think it's Grubbs. Brought him over from Indiana to Washington. I think he's going to be a really good pick. It just kind of depends on where he goes. Like, I keep thinking Seattle. Let him sit behind Geno. Familiarity with the offensive coordinator. But if he goes to, like, the Rams, I think the Rams, Sean McVay, that'd be a good coach for him. Let him eventually take over for Stafford. Again, I know he's a little bit older, might not have as much time to develop, but Stafford also doesn't have any more years left, so a situation like that, those coaches, those areas, those places, I think can get the most out of Penix. He's got such a beautiful deep ball, and I don't want to see that wasted in the NFL.
It's unfortunate because if he didn't forget how to play quarterback in the national championship game, he would be a lock as a first-round quarterback. And a lot of people have said already this year, like, if they would have lost to Texas,
him beating Texas
in the first round,
being worse. For him.
Yeah, he would be locked in.
Yeah.
So
Because
it's unfortunate.
that's your lasting memory was, wow, he's
Yeah.
phenomenal against Texas, and if they would have lost, it wouldn't have been on him.
It's like a reverse CJ Stroud, where CJ Stroud went out and looked amazing versus Georgia, and that was the last thing we saw. So everyone was like, "Oh, hold on a second."
It just reminds me, I think I said it last week, but it reminds me so much of Justin Fields, where you play in the playoff game and your stock's at a sky high. Maybe he's the second best quarterback in the draft, or for both of them, actually. And then they play the national championship game for different reasons. You know, Fields was hurt, going up against a mega star team in Alabama. Penix kind of forgot to play quarterback. Also, like I mentioned, Michigan was good at taking away the deep stuff and forcing him underneath. For their reasons, after the national championship game, that steam or that heat kind of like died off. That they were, it was just kind of like I don't know, kind of left a disgusting taste for both those guys, and they fell. Or Fields fell. We'll see how far Penix falls.
Well, I think the injuries and being lefty probably goes against him more than
the lefty thing pisses me off. Screw everybody that thinks we're different.
That's fine. Let him fall. Let him fall.
What was my? Oh yeah, my throwing comp for him was Lamar Jackson.
That's
If
crazy.
you remember, if you watch a video of him flipped, so it looks like he's throwing righty, he throws like Lamar.
Lamar's a 2-time MVP.
That's fine.
Yes.
Penix, so it's apparent that I said he was trash and garbage.
You did.
I don't remember saying that. I think I told myself that because of his injuries, and I am set on Drake May, and if I get the other bum, it's hijacking or just going down the highway going to Texas. But what I'm gonna say about Penix is he is going to be involved in my hot take later. I am completely okay at taking him at 23 right now because you are going to be surrounded by talent. You're going to be surrounded by elite guards. The middle needs to be figured out. I can promise you he's going to learn the short and shallow stuff with Kevin O'Connell. It was embedded in Kirk's brain, and guess what? You get to work with someone who's a little bit younger, but still old enough to lead a team. I mean, look at Burrow. Burrow was older coming out of college, older than most, like for top prospects and number one draft picks. Having that leadership is huge at that level, strictly because you need to be a leader of men. And give me a guy who led a team of 2 first round wide receivers and a team that was never, went there once, but then he made Washington relevant again. We can be honest about that. Washington was buns. They got mollywopped by Michigan the year before Penix got there.
They've always been mediocre. They've been in the Pac-12 conversation for a while, but I get what you're saying.
But he helped them rise up with I would say, decent defense. They have a lot of prospects on that team. Give me Penix at 23, honestly. I'm okay with that.
That sucks.
Oh, sorry.
Packaging 23 and 11 up to move up for J.J. McCarthy. That's not a bold take.
That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say.
That's a fact
That's
of
a
life, Jack.
mild take.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
All right.
It's not.
So my last pick is projected first round pick, and that is Graham Barton, and probably end of the first round. But the reason that I'm selecting him over someone like Jackson Powers Johnson is Graham Barton had a 9.99 RAS score, which stands for Relative Athletic Score.
That is insane.
Compared to guards, which is the third best guard score out of 1,532 guards from 1987 to 2024. So absolute freak athlete. Now the one of the things propping up his score is he didn't do the bench press, which I imagine if as a guard or
You're not
center or whatever
not
you
benching.
are, yeah, not benching is probably means you can't do it very well, which is kind of a bad sign for an interior offensive lineman.
Extremely bad.
But
You got to push off
Can we
guys
work
like
that?
Sweat that we were
he's
talking
a
about
very
earlier.
he is an athlete, and especially when you look at okay, maybe not guard, but maybe center. There's center is normally the smallest lineman and also oftentimes one of the more athletic linemen. Um, it's a hard position. You know, it's not just fire off the ball and hit somebody. You know, sometimes if you look at like Jason Kelsey, they get him out in space sometimes, and you've got to snap the ball, get a good snap, and then fire out of your position. It's much more difficult. And so, being an elite athlete at a position like center would be very beneficial. So I like him. If the Cowboys drafted him, I want him going center. But it's good. It increases your stock if you're able to be center or guard or maybe tackle. I know he's still listed at tackle most places, but at his pro day, he was training and doing like center drills. So I think even his own, team and himself kind of considers him as a center. So
Six
I like
five.
him.
I mean, he's got the height for tackle.
I
What's
don't
his
think he has
reach?
I don't think he has the footwork. He's not. He played tackle because he had to. Obviously, he was probably the
Yeah.
best offensive lineman at Duke,
How
and
is his
so
arm? Like his arm length?
tackle is your calling.
Like, does he
Is
have
he
shorter
short?
arms?
I don't know what his arm
See,
length is. Oh, let's see here. Actually, where's his thing?
while you're looking for that, the thing that scares me about that is the Vikings did take that
32,
chance. Okay, that's not bad.
32.8.
So
I don't know how that stacks up, but
the Vikings did take that chance on that agile center, and that bench press really does scare me strictly because for the last 4 years we took Garrett Bradbury. I believe he was very weak on his bench press. Everything else he was phenomenal. He was a very agile center. He was able to get out in space. The thing that scares me every time we face anybody with a good defensive line, I'm saying if we go up against Dexter Lawrence, Fletcher Cox, if we were going up against even Sue and then you throw in Aaron Donald, the game is over up front. So I think for him to succeed, it's going to have to be the right scheme, and he's going to have to definitely get a little bit stronger with his bench press.
Get him in there
yeah,
and
but
just start working
he's not
chest day
small
every day.
though, which is good. He's not even though he's fast. He's still 6'5", 314,
Yeah, that's
which
good
is
sign.
which is definitely not small, which will help. I mean,
Yes.
just obviously strength is important, but if you can just have mass,
It's hard to
sometimes
move mass.
that'll help you out. So I like him. I like him at center specifically. But like I said, it increases your stock if you can be center or guard, have some versatility. Or
The more
if
versatile you
someone wants
are,
to give him a try at tackle, go ahead. But they'll probably not do very well.
a lot of those guys that are tackles at smaller schools tend to play better at guard or somewhere in the interior because, like you said earlier, he was probably a tackle just out of necessity because he was the best offensive lineman for the smaller school.
Yeah, it's like
They're injury prone
Tyler
also.
Smith at Tulsa, who played tackle, who
And
played pretty well at tackle as a rookie for the Cowboys, but played
Center
at
at
an
guard.
all-pro level at guard. So
Well, that's like
that's just one of those things.
Elijah Vera Tucker. He played both tackle and guard at USC. He got to the NFL. The Jets fell in love with him because of his versatility, and it worked out. But he's as good of a tackle as he is. Dude is an all-pro guard like Tyler Smith. So the more versatile you can be, the more places you can play. Like AVT's played 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions. it increases your stock. And if you're that good, it increases your payday come the next contract too.
All right, so I wanted to throw in a sleeper prospect, and I know Drew, you're a trader, you're Tony Alford, you're moving on, but my sleeper prospect here is Michael Hall Jr. This isn't my guy. I think Michael Hall is going to be probably the best defensive tackle that comes out of this class.
Wow.
And in terms of skill, in terms of I think he's going to get more stats. And if you put him either on Philly, you could throw him in Washington right now. And I mean, even if the Bears draft him, you just give him a good, solid line around him. This guy is a leader. I mean, the one reason he entered this draft is because he has a kid. He probably would have came back to Ohio State if he did not, but he said it really came down to he's got to provide for his family, which, I mean, you're projecting the first round. Yeah, you got to go to the draft. Michael Hall, I think, could be an Aaron Donald. He's a little bit undersized.
Whoa.
He's a very, now hear me out. When Michael
Pump the
Hall is on the
brakes.
field, he's a game disruptor. Him and Tyleik Williams were an absolute problem last year for any offensive line. Michael Hall has the speed and I really think the field IQ to make a difference, especially on a team. If you put him with a veteran to learn and kind of get guidance, he is going to be your X Factor. X Factor or Superstar in Madden, year 3, guaranteed, book it.
My biggest issue with that is comparing a guy that isn't drafted yet, isn't officially in the NFL, to the greatest defensive player of our generation.
No, I said
You know,
potentially. That's why.
Yeah,
See, I can't get
putting
blamed
him
for
in that same conversation is
Allegedly,
wrong.
allegedly.
Allegedly, you said it. It's your words. Go back, listen, re-listen.
I also think he was underutilized by Larry Johnson.
That's
Let that be known.
I just have a big problem with comparing draft prospects to the best of the best.
But we'll get to my last one. Spencer Rattler. This is probably one of those what could have been stories. You're recruited by Lincoln Riley. At one point, you're the number one QB in the class. I think he ended up being like number 5 or 6. He might have been number 1 on some places, but you get rankings from 4 or 5 different sites now. So you have a decent first year with Oklahoma. You don't do terrible. I think he came out with 9 wins, but then Mr. Caleb Williams wants to come in and play for Lincoln Riley. Well, this guy is looked at as one of the best prospects of all time. This guy gets put in a game where Spencer Rattler is not doing very well, and he completes a comeback in the Red River rivalry.
Say that 5 times fast.
Red River rivalry. So,
Bro, that's difficult.
A true freshman comes in and dominates a game like that. And if you watch this game, I can't remember if it was this game or against Kansas, but I think he stole the ball from one of his teammates on 4th and 1 as he was getting driven back to get the first down.
Talking about Rattler or Williams?
Williams, because Williams came in. So I think they kind of went back and forth, and then Rattler got forgotten about. So, I mean, it's not like he's not talented, but you're confident the shot. So he goes to South Carolina, has a decent first year, and then the second year he's starting to get. I think right when he beat Tennessee is when everything turned around for him. Prospects are like, all right, he can win a big game. He just won an SEC game, top 25 matchup. I'm not saying he is a round 1. He's not even top 5. I'm saying he's going to be your sleeper quarterback that's going to turn heads at training camps and show flashes, and he is going to probably make your starter, like, let's say if you're Jacoby Brissett. He's going to make a Jacoby Brissett or someone like a Cam Newton or, let's see, what's another, like a
Aiden
Drew
O'Connell.
Lock,
Aiden
Aiden
O'Connell.
O'Connell. Even on the Seahawks, he will make that starter work. My pro comp for him is Baker Mayfield. I think it's a guy with a chip on his shoulder, has the flash, and it just never really pans out, but you maybe could revive your career. I think Spencer Rattler went through what Baker did in the NFL while in college.
He's not a very well-liked person in Arizona. And I don't think anywhere.
Really?
He's cocky.
Yes, he is. He's very cocky.
Yeah.
His high school.
At least he used to be.
Don't look
Maybe
at his
he
highlight.
wasn't.
Don't look at his high school highlights.
I think one of the biggest issues that he faced was the lack of talent. Like, he was constantly having to play hero ball because South Carolina just had no weapons. They had a terrible coaching staff. So that definitely hurt him. But he also chose to go there. So that also is, like, his fault in some ways. But offensive line, he was constantly running for his life. If he goes somewhere, properly develops, and is just having to take a seat back, I think Raiders could possibly be a good spot because you have Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell there. Maybe he does push the other two. I don't think Spencer Rattler's going to start many games, if any, his rookie year, but he is going to. I could definitely see that turning heads where it's like, oh, he's having back-to-back days or he's stringing along good practices. And then you see some preseason hype and he has, a good preseason game. Like, I think he's shown flashes at South Carolina. It's just the infrastructure that was there. And just everything at South Carolina failed him as much as he failed himself, if not more than he failed himself.
I think he failed himself. As Cam touched on, Lincoln Riley had like back-to-back Heisman guys.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's tough, though. I mean,
and
that's tough to
Rattler
come in
was supposed to be next up and wasn't. Almost immediately, it felt like he got replaced by
Williams.
How can I forget? Yeah. So.
Well, Jalen Hurts was
know.
in there too, wasn't he?
Yes.
Not with Rattler.
No, but in between Baker, Kyler, and that Rattler.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If it felt like he was like handpicked by Riley, maybe it was just a bridge until Williams could take over. But still, it felt like he had all the potential in the world. A lot of people were hyping him up to be, one of the next best quarterbacks in college football, and he just never turned out to be that. And frankly, he never even got close.
No, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody, though. Like, was it Colt McCoy? No. It was a player.
Was a goat.
He was a goat at Texas. So it was another player that like followed him at Texas or came after him at Texas. That there was a lot of hype every year. It was like, oh, he's going to be the guy, and then he gets drafted like day 5 or round 5 or something like that, and just never lived up to the billing because, in large part, it's a tall task. That's a tall thing to ask somebody, which is a big reason why I don't like comparing draft prospects to the best of the best. That's just not fair. It's tough to be like, hey, we've had 2 Heisman winners. We've had 3 quarterbacks be drafted in the first 2 rounds. Our last 3 quarterbacks here drafted. You're the next guy. It's kind of like Kyle McCord at Ohio State, where you go from Dwayne Haskins, CJ, or Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. That's a tall thing to ask somebody, is to be that 4th guy. And Spencer Rattler kind of fell in that camp. All right. I'm going to list off 3 of Dylan's 6 that he gave us, or 5, 10, whatever he gave us.
What? He was
Just
6?
He gave us 3 positions, and then it was like 2 or 3 per position. I'm naming the first 3 at each position that he likes. He likes Amarius Mims.
It's a lot of stuff from a guy who's not even here.
I know. Amarius Mims. He likes Mike Sanders still. And then Xavier Leggett. Leggett. Leggett? Leggett?
Leggett.
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 Those are his three.
I just like
So
Leggett
Dylan?
because of his accent.
Yeah.
Those are the three for him. Dylan, that's all you're getting. I'm going to give an
Nice.
honorable mention, like Cam did, before I give my final one. Both of them will go to the same school. Got to represent the TOL. This guy definitely represented the TOL. He went to St. John's, Dallas Gant. Originally enrolled at Ohio State. Transfers to Toledo, comes back home, and he was a solid player. He was a good MAC edge rusher.
Great special
Here at
teamer
Toledo.
for Ohio State, too.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're a MAC player, the special teams play. How you play on special teams matters, and he, like you said, he was a good special teamer. I think Cade's going to remember Dallas Gant.
He definitely remembers Dallas Gant.
He was on the team that, the Bedford team that played up against him. I think I was there too, actually. And
I think
he can be. It was after you guys left, so
Yeah, because we played Antoine Simmons. Antoine Bitchens.
I
Rest
think
in
Dallas
peace,
Gant.
Freddie and Trevor. Wait a minute, Drew, you were on that side. You almost got that, too.
What are you talking about?
Remember when Antoine went right through Brady and Trevor in the same play?
No.
I think I
He
do
got
remember
clipped.
that. I think I do remember.
Do not recall.
Antoine
But
Simmons
I
was
just remember
a
hitting
man
that boy in
among
his
boys.
kneecaps.
Dallas Gant, good MAC edge rusher coming out of Toledo. I think he's going to go day 3. That's usually where these Toledo guys go.
That's surprising. You don't think he's undrafted?
I don't think so.
He's trying
Maybe
to manifest.
I do. I want to see as many Toledo players drafted as possible, man. I manifested the last player in the draft last year, okay? So made it to the end. This guy put himself on the map against Notre Dame. And then he had 3 interceptions against Northern Illinois, like a week or so later. And we were talking about earlier, like, when you are a small school guy, how do you perform against bigger schools? Quinyon Mitchell performs well against bigger schools. His competition that he faces, he has no problems with. Best corner of the MAC. Again, say what you want about the MAC. But he's got size, his length, his ball hawking ability. Like, it was 3 or 4 interceptions in one game. I don't care what conference you're playing in. That is insane. That's also dumb on the quarterback to keep throwing in that direction. I mean, at some point, you got to, like, throw to the left side. But to be where you need to be at all times, lockdown. And the one thing that really stood out, so after the season was over, after the MAC championship game, I'm like, all right, Quinyon Mitchell, I'd love to see him in the first round. I think because he went to Toledo, he's going to go second. And then he goes to Senior Bowl. And he just clamps down everybody at the Senior Bowl. He's clamping down Roman Wilson. There's a pretty good, clip out there of him doing that. So he's performing well against the best of the best. And now he's inching closer to not just being a first-round pick, but top 15, top 10. Does he make top 10? I don't know. I'd love to see it. I think he's going to go top 15. But my favorite player in this draft comes out of the TOL. And the cool thing about him, too, was he had opportunities to transfer. He's from Florida, so he could have went back. He could have went to a bigger school to help give him, more notoriety when it comes to draft time. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to stay at Toledo. We're building something here. So he's a team player. He's a leader. He's stuck with the program. And there's not a negative thing I can really think about him. He's worked himself to be not just the best player from his conference, the best player at his position in this draft. And bold take. I think he's the first defensive player taken off the board. The cornerback position is getting huge in the NFL. The need for corners is... We had Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, Witherspoon, we've had a number of corners. Christian Gonzalez, Cam's favorite player from the last year's
He's
draft.
locked down. Go, you better.
If he
Garrett
would
Wilson's
have been
going to
healthy,
be put in a body bag next year. I'm sorry.
that's funny. Garrett Wilson practices against Sauce Gardner every day. I'm not worried. But Gonzalez, had he stayed healthy, he probably would have been the defensive rookie of the year. You're seeing a number of strong corners and the need for it. We've talked about the run game, but the pass game is still what wins, and you have to be able to stop it. And I know that means edge rusher, but I think, again, this is bold prediction.
He's going top 10?
I want to see it. I'm going to manifest it.
Is this your
It
bold
would have
prediction?
to be based on your stat you provided.
Yep. There's been at least one defensive player taken in the top 10 of every NFL draft ever, and I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be the first defensive player taken off the board. He's going to be there in Detroit as well, which is huge. He's invited to, walk the stage, shake Roger Goodell's hand. You're not doing that. You're not inviting a MAC guy unless he's going high in the first round. So
we know he's going first round.
He's going first
Top
round.
10?
He's going high. Top 10.
I just don't know who in the 10 he would go to.
That's the thing. I'm trying to figure that one out. The pieces are starting to come together. There's still a piece missing.
ESPN has given him to Minnesota in like 6 mocks that I've seen.
I've seen a couple Raiders. I've seen a couple of Raiders.
I've given him to the Raiders in a few drafts that I've done.
Yeah, which is just outside
Such
of the top
a Raiders
10,
pick.
So, maybe if one of those teams that are in the top 10 are able to talk the team into like, hey, I got like 2 or 3 other guys that are trying to come up for a corner. You want to move up to get your guy? Maybe something like that. Quick thing from Bleacher Report. Very good vision in zone. Route recognition. He's got good eyes. Good hip mobility. Solid tackler, which is also big for corners. Speed. Impressed at the combine. I think he had one of the fastest times for corners at the combine. So that's my Quinyon Mitchell. I've talked about him enough. Love the guy. And I got 2 bold takes this episode. That's my first bold take of this episode. He's going to be the first defensive player off the board. Manifest it, baby. TOL.
Want to do second one?
All right. So, the most quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 has been the most recent was 2018 when it was Baker, Sam Darnold, Rosen, and Allen. My bold take is this year we break that record. I think bold take 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. I think 3 are a lock for the first
10.
3. I think, listen, hear me out. The first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. I think somebody, my heart tells me Vikings, but I think somebody's going to move up for a quarterback with the Chargers. Okay, so that's 4 out of the top 5. And then I don't think the Broncos are going to get their quarterback in the first round this year because somebody's going to try jumping back in the top 10. The Bears are going to want to trade out of that pick. The Jets at 10 are going to want to trade with the Broncos, Raiders, Vikings currently slated right behind them. Somebody's going to try jumping up for whoever's left on the board because 4 quarterbacks are already gone. I think 5 quarterbacks go in the top 10 this year because out of need, necessity, and teams just getting scared. What 5 those are, I'm not sure. What 5 teams they are, I think I know 4, but that 5th one, I think it's going to be a team trying to jump the Broncos.
Interesting.
Extremely interesting.
Do you want to
get
go
bold.
on New Year's?
I'm kind of formulating 2 right now. One,
All right, let's hear 'em.
One revolves around quarterbacks.
It contradicts mine, doesn't it?
It does. Because we were in a similar situation last year where it seemed like the top 4 picks were a lock to be quarterbacks. at least, let's just call it the top 10. It seemed like 4 quarterbacks were guaranteed. And that was Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. We see Bryce Young come off the board. We see CJ Stroud come off the board as expected. Anthony Richardson going to the Colts at 4, I believe it was. And all of a sudden, it's like, all right, pick 5, pick 6, pick 7. Keeps on ticking by. Will Levis is still sitting with his girlfriend in the lobby of the draft area or whatever, and he has to wait till day 2 to get picked. And there's going to be someone that happens to. I don't think that after Caleb Williams, there's not a second quarterback that's guaranteed. I don't think.
Should it be guaranteed? I agree.
Like Bryce Young, like CJ Stroud, even Anthony Richardson, who questionable college career, but his athleticism was off the charts. There's no one like that. I mean, other than maybe Caleb Williams, there's no one like that in this draft. Jaden Daniels isn't super athletic. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Penix are not crazy athletes. I would be willing to. My bold take is 2 quarterbacks go in the top 5. I'll stick with that. Because the only reason I'm not going even top 10, even though I want to, is I know there are plenty of dumb teams who will draft
that's why
a quarterback or some other.
I think the need for quarterback is stronger this year in this year's draft than last year's.
Maybe, but I think I think teams can wait, and you can hope Penix is there in the second. You can hope Nix is there in the second, or maybe even third. You can hope Rattler.
That's the thing is like we've had this discussion before, is if you're saying like all right, I want Nix, I want Penix at quarterback, you have to take him. You're not saying like I want this guy, I think we can win with this guy, but we have to wait.
Exactly, but I don't think you're thinking you can win with any of the other guys either after Williams.
I think teams are going to talk themselves into it because, like the Patriots, I think we've had this discussion. If I'm the Patriots, I'm team draft a quarterback because the rebuild's got to start, and I'm team you draft a quarterback and hope things fall into place instead of trying to put the perfect team together and then draft a quarterback and plop it. I also think the Commanders, they have to take the quarterback because Marcus Mariota cannot be your quarterback week 1. So those are 3 right there. The Vikings, I think they'd move up. There's rumors of the Giants. There's the Broncos. Who's the Broncos quarterback right now? And then some team is going to want to get ahead. So that's kind of why I lean the way I do. Now, do I think they should? No. I just think they will. I agree with what you're saying, that these quarterbacks aren't good enough, but I think the NFL's dumb, and out of need, out of having to sell tickets too, because that's another thing that owners are like, all right, we get a first-round draft pick at quarterback, we're going to be able to sell tickets, we're going to be able to sell jerseys. It's a business at the end of the day. You're going to have owners like that. I mean, that's why the Browns drafted Johnny Manziel, because the owner's like, all right, I want that. That's why Jerry almost drafted Johnny.
He did.
There's a lot of factors at play, and when it's the quarterback position, you take and hope for the best.
But even Jerry was able to withstand the temptation to draft Johnny Manziel. So
that's because
I don't know.
We'll see
how
which
I'm
one
looking
of us
at it
is
right
right.
now is Caleb Williams obviously won. The more and more the closer we get to the draft, the more I see Jaden Daniels at 2, which is crazy. But I don't know if
you're smiling there. You're not getting Drake May.
I think maybe my bold take can be narrowed down to that the Patriots are not selecting a quarterback.
And you've been on that You've been consistent with that.
But if that
here's the thing.
happens,
Here's
That's
the
a
thing.
trade up with the Cardinals immediately. If that happens, if the Patriots just don't trade with us. But here's the thing. Let me tell you my bold take because it contradicts that one. If the Vikings do not end up with May or McCarthy, we end up with Pat Surtain and Michael Penix.
Because
how do you end up with Surtain then?
The Broncos are going to trade up because McCarthy's going to be
To
there.
11?
Because McCarthy's going to be there after he's already fallen this far. And with the Falcons out of the way, that just makes it even easier. Because now you're trading up to 10. Or you could be trading up to 8.
I do love.
Depending on what the NFL does.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I absolutely love the fact that our bold takes directly contradict each other.
It is true.
So how far? Where are the Broncos slated? Because I did see the.
They're like, are they 12?
That's if they're 12, they're
I'm
not
pretty sure.
trading Pat Surtain to move up to 11.
Well, the thing is, I think they don't want to pay him.
I
They
saw.
have to pay him.
I think that's
And Sean,
fine, but
and Sean Payton is so weird, dude. He's the weirdest dude in the NFL.
Well,
I hate
Broncos
Sean
are
Payton.
12.
Bounty program
Yeah.
bitch.
if you're getting Pat Surtain and the 12th overall pick to move up to 11, the Vikings are giving up something else.
Oh, I don't think we'll get the 12. I think. Oh, we might get the 12. And
Well, you'd have to get in
probably
that scenario.
12.
You'd get the 12. So you'd be getting the Broncos first and Pat Surtain for picks 11 and 23, because the Broncos are going to try trading him for a first. He's good enough to yield back a first.
Yeah, but is he going to be worth the first? Because you also have to pay him.
So did the Eagles and A.J. Brown. That was
That's
a
true.
first. I think if that scenario were to play out, you're giving up pick 23. Which, I mean, you get a quarterback that you love, and you get Surtain. I would not be complaining about that at all.
The Cardinals would be extremely happy to take that same deal, and they can come all the way up to 5 or 4.
It's true.
Because the Cardinals desperately need corner. And you come back to 12, maybe they try to move back up again to get a Neighbors or a Dunze. But
Yeah, because you're at that point, you're at 12, you're looking at Mars already gone in this played out scenario where the Patriots take him at 3.
and in my head canon, yeah, he's going to the Patriots at 3.
And then you have Neighbors and a Dunze not getting past both New York teams, I don't think. As much as I am brocked up for Bowers, I do think they would rather a Dunze over Bowers. So now you're looking at...
Get Corley in the second round.
We don't have a second round pick.
Third round. Do you have a third round pick?
I wouldn't be against it. But I think if you're looking at the Cardinals there, they move back to 12 to jump up. You're looking at trying to get in front. The Bears. You're looking at the Bears pick at 9.
Yep. Well, that's
The
a great
jump-
scenario. I like that. Let's pitch that to the NFL.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I strongly...
Second bold take real quick. I'm just going to throw it out there. The Cowboys' first round pick will be an all-pro at some point in his career.
Wow. Interesting.
It's just statistics.
Gotcha.
The only recent picks that have not been all-pros by the Cowboys in the last 10 years, I think it goes back.
Taco?
Maybe something like 9, is Taco and Mozzie Smith, obviously, still a rookie. Well, first sophomore now, but every
second
other.
round?
Hello?
Leighton? Dander?
Rush?
No, he was first round.
Was he all pro?
No
Mhm.
way he got all pro once. Really?
Next to,
Mhm.
yeah. Right.
So
Next to Jalen.
the only misses while what's his face? Forgetting his name right now. But in the last 10 years or so, we've only 2 of our first round picks have not been all pros.
That's a pretty good hit rate.
Very good
So,
hit rate.
feeling confident. As much as I always come out of the first round like, dang, why the heck did you pick that guy? Tyler Smith. I did not like the Micah pick at the time.
You hated it. I remember that.
Yeah. So as much as I'm sure they'll find a guy, they'll pick it in the first round, and I'll be like, why the heck did you do that? And then he'll be awesome, and I'll be like, oh, yeah. That's why you have a job making much more money than I do. But
Nice.
bold take.
Nice.
That's also why the Cowboys aren't drafting top 10 because they have smart people drafting all pros. Where you have, teams like the Giants and the Bears and the Panthers and the Jets that are. I saw it like on your face. Like, is he going to say it?
I was waiting for it to come. I was like, God, I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
So I had to throw that one. But, yeah. And again, that goes back to why I think multiple quarterbacks go 15 ago. Cam, you got other than because Drew and I have pretty much given 2 takes already. You already mentioned the Vikings trading with the Broncos to get Surtain. You got another take for us?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm all good. Take us home.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on another episode here at Party Chat Sports. I think we're going to try getting some team mock drafts out there. Dylan wasn't able to join us on this one, but I think he's going to get a Steelers episode to be a mock draft and or some like a wish list of Steelers players for him. I'm going to get some sort of Jets mock draft out at some point. The other 2, I hope you guys get something for your teams out there in terms of mock draft to be on the YouTube feed or just podcast. So stay tuned to the feed. We also, before the draft, we will do our final mock draft. So we'll have another mock draft ready to go so that for those of us like Cam and myself that plan on taking the trip up to Detroit, on your way up to Detroit before the first round, you can listen and see where we went right, where we went wrong. But until then, make sure you continue to follow us at Party Chat Sports on TikTok, on Twitter, or X, wherever you get your podcasts. We've got a couple TikToks up on the feed. Go make sure you like those. Make sure you follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff wherever you see us at Party Chat Sports. Until next time, have a great weekend. Only less than 2 weeks away from the draft. It's going to be here before you know it. So enjoy. Have a good one.
Peace.